over 20 years of experience in researching family roots. Following a successful career as a police officer, Gary turned his passion for Scottish family history into a profession, specializing in genealogical research across Scotland. His approach to research emphasizes the importance of tailoring each project to the individual needs of the client, with the aim of providing a professional service and detailed research reports. He also says this is not an easy job, not an easy work. It takes a lot of time to become an expert in it, and also education, but we will speak about that later. Gary, can you hear me?
Yes, Harry. Yep.
It's your time now.
Everybody can hear me now. Thank
yes,
you.
We can.
Yep.
How's the time in Scotland, firstly?
It's currently 1 p.m., so we're 1 hour behind.
Oh, okay. So you have the time. Okay. Carry on, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Harry. Yeah. Thanks very much, everybody, for this opportunity. I'll try my best to speak as slow as I can. It's not till we come into events like this I realise how terrible we are in the United Kingdom at speaking other languages, that we rely on people so much to speak in English. So what I've done is I've done a presentation, and I've said that I'm more than happy for this to be circulated to people who are participating, for it to be translated if required, if that's easier. That will just lay out some of the points that I want to get across. So I'll put my presentation up now, and hopefully we'll be able to see that on the screen. So as I said, Scotland, a bit like Croatia as I understand it, is a beautiful country, lots of beautiful scenery. You have the advantage perhaps of the weather being slightly better than what we have here in Scotland, but nevertheless on its day when, as you can see from the two pictures here, Scotland has a wonderful tourist opportunity, and a tourist attraction as a major part of our economy here in Scotland. So what I want to do is just outline for you the story of my business since it started in 2016, and some of the lessons that I've learned, the difficulties that I've encountered that might well help yourselves as you develop the trade in Croatia. First of all, quick outline of my own business. As was mentioned by Harry, I was a police officer for 30 years, joined when I was 17, and I retired in 2016, which was the end of my service. And I had an interest in Scottish history that goes back to my childhood days. I was born and I live currently in Stirling, which, if anybody has visited Scotland, Stirling is at the absolute centre of the country, and is a very noted historical city in the country. So I wanted to do something different when I finished in the police. I had developed an interest in family history as a hobby from the mid-90s. So I went away just before I retired and obtained 2 qualifications, one at the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow, which is one of the foremost training centres for genealogy across the world. Its courses are renowned across the world. And I was fortunate it was very, very close to where I lived in Stirling. So I gained those qualifications and I learned a great deal from that. I thought I knew a lot about family history, research, and then I discovered very quickly that going on a professional level training course such as that is hugely beneficial, and I would certainly recommend that to people. So after my course was complete, I started Heart of Scotland Ancestry in 2016, and I've been running the business since that time as a sole trader. It's just myself in the business. I am making a slight change in focus now, very much moving from doing research with clients towards focusing more on ancestral tourism, because I do believe that there's a greater market and a greater opportunity developing in Scotland, and I'm quite sure it will be the same for yourselves. So first of all, what are the challenges that you will face as you start up in a genealogy business? Well, the obvious one is attracting clients in what is or likely to be a competitive market. Now, I've done well enough for my clients. The issue sometimes in Scotland is because we've got Strathclyde University in this country, they are turning out every year around about 10 professional genealogists. And obviously there's greater competition every single year. But up until now, myself and all other genealogists have had more than enough work and trade to keep us going as an individual organisation. So, but certainly being able to attract clients initially as you're starting this trade might well be difficult. One other issue to be aware of is client expectations. What do clients know and what do they expect you to do? Certainly what we have nowadays is the danger of everyone being an expert. You can go online and search on websites such as Ancestry.com and see your family tree very quickly. So people expect that it's easy to trace your family history. The reality is that there are an awful lot of mistakes are made on online family trees. You have to deal with that, and you have to be much more professional and research at a much higher level than what most people will be doing at an amateur level in genealogy. Well, another issue that's really important is about unrealistic timescales to do proper research. I believe that one of the things that we are not getting right in Scotland is notifying travellers, people coming into Scotland from abroad, about what they can expect to do when they arrive. They arrive, or just before they arrive, they suddenly think, well, we've got Scottish ancestry, I'm going to look up where my ancestors came from. And it's not as easy as that. You can't just do it in a day or two. You need a bit of time. So we need to do better at notifying clients and other people that if you want to do proper ancestral research when you're visiting Scotland or Croatia, you need to plan ahead. You need to give people, the researcher, a few months to be able to do proper work so that you can get the best from your visit to Scotland. And some people, they're visiting Scotland for once in a lifetime. They won't be back to Scotland, and it's disappointing that they don't get the opportunity to properly do it. So that's important. One other issue, which is a real challenge in genealogy, is about being able to charge the correct amount. A lot of people, myself included, for many years have undercharged the work that they've done, or you actually work for longer than what perhaps you're expected to do. And currently the expectation is, and you'll be able to convert this for yourself, but around about £45 to £50 per hour is a reasonable amount, and there are people charging more than that for genealogical research. People are paying for your expertise, so it's the least that they can expect to pay a reasonable amount towards the work that you're doing. Another thing I would warn you about is not to take on too many clients. You can only do so much, particularly if you, as is likely, you're on your own. So don't take on too many people and suddenly find that you're lowering your standards, which is not going to help in the long term. So keep up to date with what's happening in your area, what's historically has happening in your area, and make sure you keep the highest standards of research, that you don't let things slip simply because you're too busy at that particular time. So question, how do I attract clients? How have I gone about that? I think one of the things I would recommend is about having a good brand, an identification for your own business. And I spent a lot of time researching about what I wanted to do for my brand. And I came up with the name of Heart of Scotland Ancestry. Ancestry obviously is the attraction. Think about how that person will be searching on Google when they're sitting in America or Canada. They're looking to try and find a genealogist. What will they put in? What will they search on if they're looking for Scottish ancestry, Croatian ancestry? So I identified Heart of Scotland Ancestry, which is a phrase that's often used for Stirling, which is where I am, is it's the heart of Scotland. And it obviously helps in terms of the ancestry element, helps to attract people on Google when they're searching. The colour scheme as well is important. As you'll see on my slides, I have the top right-hand side is a kind of badge that I use. And that was developed by a company that I paid £300, I believe it was, to develop that for me, as was the badge Heart of Scotland Ancestry, which you can see on the sign. And I use that on business cards, on slides, on reports when I'm producing it for clients, which is important. Similarly, the color blue, my clients are older people, and what I was told was use colors like blue, more traditional conservative colors, rather than garish bright colors that might not attract people who are looking for someone to research their family history. Your clients might be different. You have to do that work first of all to know that. If you deliver high standards of work, you will get returning clients, and a significant proportion of my work are returning clients. I've got clients who I have been doing work for them since about 2018, 2 years after I started in the business. And to this day, I'm still doing work for them. You will never complete and finish a family tree. There's always something else that needs to be done. And the client I've got that I've been doing is in Australia. They can't access the records, so he comes to me to do the work on his behalf. So if you do a high standard of work, you'll get return clients coming back. Website and social media is important as a means of drawing in your clients. Have a website. One thing I'm really bad at is not keeping it updated. So try and do your best to keep it updated. And obviously there are other social media outlets such as Facebook and Instagram, which have good, very good genealogy presence and organizations. And again, likewise, posting regularly helps to keep your visibility up for people at the same time. The other thing I would say is whatever you have as the equivalent is speak to people about business development. I spoke early doors and continue to speak to people about how I can develop my business, attend courses on how I can attract customers and do work, etc. So that's worthwhile. And also the Tourist Association. Here in Scotland, we have Visit Scotland, which is the national government body that promotes tourism in Scotland. And so I have an entry on their website and regularly will attend conferences and meetings of Visit Scotland to promote ancestry and ancestral tourism amongst other people who are involved in the tourism trade. And try and think constructively or think outside the box in terms of collaboration opportunities. We have in Scotland here what's called Highland Games, which people may have seen. And I was speaking the other day to the gentleman who's organising the Stirling Highland Games later this year. And what I'll be doing this year is presenting for half an hour a talk on ancestry in Scotland. Now, though the clients that will be attending that event tend to be Americans, Canadians on holiday, and therefore they are potential clients that may well ask me after the presentation to do some work for them. So try and think something differently is very, very useful. So who are my clients? And I would imagine this will be very similar for yourself. But in Scotland, it's estimated that we have between 40 and 50 million people across the globe who can claim some form of Scottish ancestry. Our key markets are the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the rest of the UK. Scotland obviously was an independent country before 1707. We then became part of Britain and the British Empire, and it obviously spread across the world. People emigrated from Scotland to different parts of the world, and it's those descendants who are the clients who will be coming back to Scotland now. My typical client are older people, 50 years plus, affluent, retired or retiring, and they probably have already done some element of family history, some of which might not be correct. But another emerging group of clients that's coming out are younger families, perhaps with teenage children, and they're coming across to Scotland for a once-in-a-lifetime holiday. They're doing different activities, outdoor activities, visiting Edinburgh, and they want to take a day or two out of their time to go and actually visit perhaps where their ancestors came from. And they're less likely to have done research. It's a different style of or type of client that you're dealing with from that particular time. And another important client are hotels and tour operators. If you can get into high quality hotels and professional tour operating companies and offer your services, that they can promote perhaps ancestry as something that people can do whilst they're visiting, that certainly is an opportunity for you. And I've got a couple of partnerships that I have in place with tour operators and hotels to try and promote ancestry and genealogy for clients who are coming over and visiting. What do clients want? They want a personal approach. That's very important. Everybody's family tree genealogy will be different. They want a personal approach, a service that's tailored to their own story. Which specific ancestor do they want to pursue? How much information do they want? Do they want you to go way, way back to centuries? Do they just want you to tell them about the last 100 years that they were living in the area? Have very, very clear research objectives. Don't overreach and take on too much, because you just simply will not be able to do it. Professionalism and honesty in the results is important. They may well have results that they may think they're related to some ancient Scottish king, and your research might show something completely different. You have to be honest with them and upfront with them if that's the case. Really important is it's about location. Where did the ancestors live? Where did they work? Where did they die? That is critical for people coming on holiday. So they want to be able to go and visit the houses, the farms where ancestors lived, or a grave where perhaps their ancestor is buried. They perhaps want to go to a museum that will tell them about the lives that they lived, but they want to actually be able to walk where their ancestors walked. That's absolutely critical for when you're doing some work. So bear that in mind in terms of importance of it. So in conclusion, some of the key messages that I would give across to people are: establish your brand. First of all, give some thought to your brand that you want to put out. Develop and sustain your reputation by delivering really good quality work. Learn from other people. We have networks in Scotland of genealogists, the Scottish Genealogy Network. We are technically competitors, but we don't treat ourselves as such. We meet up regularly, socially, and we share some information about what's happening. So something along those lines is very useful, to learn from other people. Make sure you develop partnerships in tourism with hotels and tour operators as a way of getting into clients. Educate clients and partners on the issue of time scale, which is really important. It frustrates me that there are so many potential clients who are coming in, and not until they arrived do they suddenly discover that they've lost the opportunity to do proper ancestral research. Learn your history, your social, your political and location history of your country, so that you can add a little bit of colour to the report. You can put the context as to why they emigrated, what was happening in the country or in their area at the time that made them leave the country. Is really, really important. And provide a tailored service for your client. Everybody's different. One person will want a lot of information, another person will just want dates and names, and that's all. So you need to tailor it to your individual client. And don't undersell your skills and talents to clients. Try your best to make sure that the work that you're doing is rewarded by the money that you're receiving back. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. There's almost nothing more to add. We can end this right now. Okay, thank you. Goodbye, everybody. But of course, we won't do that. There will be a lot of questions. I've written down at least 11 of them for you, and I'm sure I will have the equal number for Manja. But before, I would like to introduce Manja a little bit. She's a licensed tour guide and an expert researching Slovenian and Croatian heritage, with many years of experience in organizing and leading customized trips. Her passion for travel stemmed from her desire to explore the world beyond the borders of her native Slovenia. Naša Slovenka, naravno. Throughout her career, Manja has worked on creating and leading tours in numerous countries in Europe, Asia, Australia, Latin America. Her personal experience researching her own family roots, which I find particularly interesting, included a trip to Argentina to meet her relatives, further fueled her fascination with historical migration stories. Manja, thank you so much for coming here today. And if you could please tell us a few words about yourself and how did you get in this whole story?
Hi, everybody. I'm happy that some of you are turning on the video so I can see if you are smiling or if you are reacting, so I will know if I'm too long or if I'm boring and so on. And since I'm also a guide, I'm used to communicating and waving to the people. So yes, I was a guide, or I'm still a guide for last 20, 25 years. And I started guiding, in general, Slovenian and Croatian descendants. And during all this time, I noticed that especially Slovenian and Croatian descendants, they always wanted to go to the villages. They wanted to meet the locals. They wanted to reconnect with the heritage. And of course, you know, we were the guides. A lot of guides that didn't even know how to do it. A lot of them didn't even care. But because of my experience with Argentina and with my aunt, I felt, you know, for these clients. So I always went above and beyond, you know, to make their wishes fulfill, and that they would walk the ground of their ancestors. So at the beginning, we were improvising. You know, how did it look? The clients told me the names. I went to the village. We talked to the oldest person in the village, or to the women that were sitting in front of the church, or in front of the house, you know, or in front of the cemetery. And we were asking. So a lot of times we were at the beginning, of course, we were successful. Maybe I can tell one of the juicy stories. I don't have a presentation, but I will have some stories. So, for example, imagine 23 years ago, I was guiding some Slovenian group in Bela Krajina in Metlika. And there were two of my clients on the bus who were from my area. So I was born in Radenci. So, you know, the famous Radenska Tri Srca, this famous mineral water. So my area, it's the eastern part. So when I speak Croatian, everybody thinks that I'm from Međimurje. You know, that this is my area. So those two clients, cousins, they were descendants of Prekmurje, and asked me if I can locate the cousins. And I said, oh, of course, you know, it's my area. Everybody knows everybody. So I was calling. And remember, that was the time before the smartphones, before we had internet on our phones. So I was calling to the information center and so on, and nobody knew. Nobody knew the family. Nobody knew the family in the village. They said, one said, oh, this house burned down. This, I don't know, the family moved out. And then suddenly, I can still remember, I was sitting in front of the church. My group was inside on the tour with the priest, and I was making phone calls. And suddenly, I got to talk to the son of the cousins that we were looking of the person. So this guy goes, I said, oh, do you know Marta Cvetko? And this guy goes, oh, yes, that's my mom. And I go, yes, where is she? And this same moment, the bus from Prekmurje passes by in another region. Imagine. And I was like, where are they? Are they in Velika Pola? Are they in Bela Krajina? Oh, probably yes. And I said, call them. I have the cousins from America on the bus. Call them. Of course, everybody on Slovenian bus was drunk, so nobody picked up the phone because they were visiting the wineries. And you know what happened? We ended up in the same parking place. So the bus from America and the bus from Slovenia with three cousins met in the same place. So I became famous. Imagine. I ended up in the newspapers, in the American newspaper, you know, Zarya. This is like you have zajedničar, you know, Croatians, you have zajedničar. And then I got more and more requests. But I soon realized that this is not enough, you know, going to the villages, because not everybody, not every time I will be so lucky. For example, once I had a group from Laslavić, you know, this is in Croatia, Gorski Kotar, and we went looking for cousins. And for I don't know what reasons, we stopped in Laslavić in front of the house, and we wanted to walk. I had a big bus, 30 people. And, you know, we stopped in front of the house of the cousins that just came from Zagreb to mow the grass, for 3 hours, one afternoon. And we had the cousins on the bus. So they started calling me like, oh, Magic Manja, you know, Magic Manja. But I knew, you know, it was just luck. So I started to professionalize, because I soon realized every family has 3 Magdalenas, 2 Katarinas, 5 Josip, and you cannot. And then the families itself, they don't know. You know, the families itself, they don't know who is who. Easy, yes, you know your grandparents. What about the great-grandparents? Because the generation who moved to America or that migrated was the generation of your great-grandparents. So you have to research the generation of the people who migrated. So what I did, of course, it took me like 10 years to professionalize, but I started to develop a network of the researchers. So I have a network. Of course, I can also do the research, but since I'm better with people, you know, I'm better going out, talking, translating, arranging. So I hire the researchers, and I have a good colleagues in several areas. So each area is specific. So for example, in Prekmurje or Međimurje, we have Protestants. So the church books are differently, you know, called. Then, for example, not to talk about Herzegovina, how many problems are there? You have to have a local there. Then, for example, in Slovenia, we have several regions that have, for example, they are under different archives, because, you know, mainly what we do is we start with the church books. Luckily, there are some municipalities in Slovenia, probably in Croatia too, that made like a family tree of whole municipality. You know, so if I have clients coming from Vrhnika, Logatec, I will call the colleagues there. We will know exactly where, because those are the local genealogists, also professional, but they are specialized in this area. So what I do now, of course, I walk through the village, you know, with the, okay, those are already used, you know, with the family trees like this, and ask them if they know, you know, the relatives and so on. But what we also do, over the years, I managed to get people to send me much more in advance the data. So we have time to prepare, because it's not just about finding the village or finding the grave. It's about whole family story. So we started, for example, we started preparing the whole family report. So talking about obituaries. So what are our resources? Like obituaries, cadastral maps, libraries online. For example, there's so much information in your, for example, Slovenians, we have this Zarya, but Croatians, you have Zajedničar. So if you go and look for Zajedničar online, you will find old obituaries, probably of one of your ancestors also, you know, that migrated to America. I'm talking about the Croatian. So we find more information about the family members in the library, in local newspapers. For example, then also we add a history of the town, because a lot of the villages were vanished, you know, because the people migrated 100 years ago. So, and on the other hand, we are also, what is one of our challenges, that we are only allowed to research data that are over 100 years old because of this data protection. So I'm not allowed, I can only use the information that are online. Of course, the church books are essential, but it's not in our interest that we will only put, you know, those dry information. Oh, the grandma was born here and there. We also add in the family description interesting remarks, you know, that the priest left. Or for example, I was like laughing once. We were researching one family, and then the priest wrote, "They left to America, thanks God." Or for example, I don't know, there was one, Katarina or something. This lady was too much in the bars, not appropriate. You know, so those are so many juicy stories that you have to share with the family. And then what else? Interesting. Why is this important for me? Because I realized if we don't do the research, there are so many things the clients would miss. So many times, I got the data, we were looking, and something just wasn't right. I was keep looking. And my clients, for example, would never know that for example, their ancestor was a famous Slovenian poet. You know, and then when we realized that he was a famous Slovenian poet, we organized a whole reunion with the families. There were 6 nieces, grandnieces and nephews of this famous poet. And we even ended up in the newspaper, in the national newspaper, about this reunion. And what was really interesting, that at the end, we came to the conclusion that everybody was a teacher. You know, relatives in Slovenia and the relatives in America all were teachers, but there was a gap of 3 generations in between. And then we ended up in newspaper, and I got a phone call from another relative from Celje, and she said, "You know, Manja, I thought I will cry when I read. We are also relatives of this Simon Gregorčić, but what really made me cry is that we are also teachers. You know, I had so many situations, the families who were, for example, lost. You know, they were, so when a I'm talking here, when the grandparents stopped talking Slovenian or Croatian, they lost a relation with the Slovenian or Croatia. Then usually it's one generation in the middle who don't care because they're working, and they forget about the heritage because they will learn to be Americans. But then the third generation wakes up and they start to wonder what is my background, who I am and what I am, and they reach to us. So what was also very interesting that I noticed that many of the families that I had some interesting connection, or for example, everybody was a hunter, or everybody was a teacher, or the last year, the most funny story. If I'm too long, please tell me, because I can talk for hours. So last year, I had a situation here in municipality of Karlovac, and of course, I had this big family tree, and I had the local helpers. So we found one of the relatives. So to make a long story short, we met then at the Karlovac and so on, and the guy, the local, said, "Yo, Manja, I'm sorry. You know, I'm not very extroverted. You know, but this is such a cool story, and it's very interesting. That's why I came. But otherwise, I'm not so open. You know, I'm an undertaker." And I go, "Your family in America too?" So he and the family in America all were undertakers. We were talking about bodies, about this. Thank you for laughing. So, you know, everybody, we connected immediately, and then at the end, this Croatian, you know, he said, "Yo, Manja, I cannot believe, you know, now everything makes sense." You know, okay, of course he wrote but those are these stories that I don't want to miss. Or for example, I had the situations when we research, and then one was, I don't know, a descendant of the counts. The third one was a driver of Tito. The second one, for example, the last year I had the story of Petar Dragić. He's also mentioned in the 30 stories of Croatia. We started 6 months before. The family tree was 15 meters long, you know. But the thing was that we were focusing on Dragić. But what I realized that in general, the families are always connected on the mother's side. So the father's last name, you know, goes, but in fact, the mother was always in the contact. So we were like looking for this Dragić, and at the end, it turned out that this Petar Dragić, it's now mentioned in all of the technical magazines of Croatia because he developed a special type of the tuna nets for tuna fishing and changed totally the fishing in the oceans, tuna fishing in the oceans. So now the museum in Crikvenica will dedicate the museum there. But, you know, I would not be able to do this without the local researchers, you know, from the area. And if I wouldn't have so much time. So the thing is that what I do in general, I organize. So I get a request, I organize, I see what is the best way, you know, to solve to solve the request. And we prepare the whole family book. Usually those family books are like 10, 20 pages long. And it's not only the family tree, but there are all these stories. And of course, then when the guests came, they come 5 days, 3 days, 1 day. And what is the best, it's that they are coming back. You know, that's why now, for example, I don't need any good website. I'm not even on Facebook, you know, but people are coming back, and it's because are coming back, sending the families. Look, you can do the research once, but you can come and see Croatia 6 times, you know, in a year if you want, or every year. So the guests, they are really coming back. I have a case, for example, from Slovenia. Who of 2 clients who were coming back 15 years in a row. We started with 2 relatives and ended with 50. You know, so this is what. And okay, I have also bigger groups, and now we are preparing, for example, a big genealogy group in September to Slovenia. There is always something. But important is that for example, the people are really coming back. It's personal approach. You know, they really come as a guest, but they do live as a friends. Okay, I will.
Thank you very much, Manja. You made us laugh several times there. Magic Manja, if we can call you now.
Yeah, I will.
We are coming up to our Q&A bit. I will start with Gary. How did you know this is a job for you? Okay, I understand, like a former police officer, this was in a way the continuance of your detecting, but there are some people here, I'm sure, that are thinking about following this profession, being a professional like you. How would they know if this is for them?
Yeah, a lot of times people have mentioned about how relevant being a police officer and genealogist is, and there are crossovers of skills. I was never a detective when I was a police officer, so although you did still have to use the same thing about looking at information and evaluating information when you do a genealogist and a police officer. But I think it go back to the fact that I was interested in history way back when I was at school. I think if I hadn't been a police officer, I probably would have been a history teacher, to be honest. So I always had that interest in history. And round about the mid-1990s was when I started doing family history, family tree. Really enjoyed it. It was my way of relaxing away from the police job, was family history. And for me, it was just a natural thing to move into. So I had no doubts. I wanted to do something completely different. Most people who retire from the police in Scotland will retire relatively young. So people will look for another career. And a lot of police officers will go into things that are related to policing, like security and these kind of things. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something that was, I could determine my own time, how much work I was doing. You know, I could still have time off. So it fitted well my lifestyle that I wanted. But it was very, very clear for me. I didn't have any desire to do anything else other than that. And it came from the fact I had that interest and that I had done it as an amateur genealogist, and it was a natural progression to become professional.
It seems to me like you have to love history and definitely exploring. Manja, your experience in Argentine, I'm very curious about that, because this way we can learn about the people who are going to be our customers one day. What inspired you to go seek out your roots?
In fact, I never cared much at the beginning. I always wanted to go out of Slovenia. It was too small for me when I was in the secondary school. I even wanted to move to Argentina when I was 18, but the thing was that my grandmother was always telling me, Manja, if you will speak Spanish, you could go to Argentina. I don't know, that was my wish. I knew that my grandmother was abandoned, or let's say, so my grandmother, when she was 6 years old, her mother left her in Slovenia, moved to Argentina, and then they wanted to send back for her, but the Second World War started. And my great-grandmother formed the second family in Argentina. So when I was 18, I went to Argentina finally. You know, that was my wish. I can get away from Slovenia, you know. So I went to Argentina, and I didn't know I ended up on the television. So there was a secret camera filming, you know, filming me, and they took me the second day to the interview because a friend of my aunt Emilia, she wrote to the television about the family story. You know, my grandmother abandoned, we were connected, my grandmother was waiting for them whole life. You know, I was there, for example, reading my grandmother's letters. Dear mother, imagine looking at your grandmother's handwriting when she was 10 years old, writing, dear mother, please come back, please pick me, come back to Slovenia. Oh my God, I thought my heart will explode. You know, till then I didn't care. But then with the love to Slovenia, to Prekmurje of my aunt Emilia, I don't know, I just realized, you know, how it must feel when you are, you know, over the ocean and you know that your heritage, it's on the other side, your family, it's on the other side, and you always feel that you belong there. So my Emilia, they never had enough money, you know, to travel and to know Slovenia, but she was speaking Slovenian. She knew everything, you know, about Slovenia. So the television decided to send her. Imagine, that was just after the war. So they interviewed me if it was safe, you know, in the 97 to go to send my aunt from Argentina to Slovenia to surprise my grandmother. So in collaboration with Spanish television, they sent Emilia and my uncle to Slovenia while I was still there in Argentina. So imagine, my grandmother didn't want to let nobody in the house because we wanted to, like, a scenario was, let's interview my grandmother, and then the journalist will come, oh, here, you know. And no, my grandmother said, no, nobody foreigner in the house. I will have to clean. No. So I said, okay, then nothing. I said, nothing, just wait in front. So the fun part was, we were filming, they were filming, so I had the video still. My grandmother and grandfather coming with a tractor, my grandmother sitting on the hay, you know, my grandmother coming out, giving food to the pigs, and the camera coming, and my aunt from Argentina in a beautiful fur shouting down the courtyard, and Yolanka, that's my grandmother's name, Yolanka, I called you, you know, this stupid talk, I called you. And then my Yolanka, you know, she was wearing, you know, because she came out just giving the food to the pigs. Who did you call? You know, and hugging and kissing, and on the floor, and the chickens around, and you know, and then my grandmother called my mom, and I said, because, you know, the television group was there, everybody, Emilia, and I was in Argentina. So my grandmother called my mom, Nada, my mom, it's Nada, come, and Emilia came. And we all thought she lost it because she was waiting for 40 years, you know, for the family to come. So, you know, then I started to feel that. So if it wouldn't be for that, I don't know if I would go, you know, above and beyond to work with the guests.
Yeah, but this seems to tell a great story about the importance of this work. Gary, we spoke about the expectations of your clients, how to manage them, okay? What is okay for the client to expect when he contacts you?
Yeah, there is a kind of standard that we would normally deliver for a client. And the first thing I mentioned, I think, in my slides was having a clear objective of what you're actually researching. Because the danger is, I mean, as everybody knows, as I said, you can't finish a family tree. People say, I've done my family tree. You can't do your family tree. There is always something else, another cousin, another story, something else that's uncovered. So you need to be very clear about what you're going to be doing for that client. What is the objective that the client's looking for? So are they looking for 2 family lines to be researched? Is it 1 family line? Is it 1 specific ancestor? Is it a particular record they're looking for? So you you have to agree a clear objective with the client so that they know what they're going to get from you when you do your research. That's really important. And certainly it depends on what kind of information what I would provide. So I might provide a detailed report and a family tree chart to somebody, or I might produce a report that's more about, here's the research I've done, here's what I've found, I think this might be your ancestor, and here's my reasons for thinking it's your ancestor, and then handing it over to them. So there's different clients have got different needs, but having a very clear objective about what they're going to get from you, and communicate with them clearly, I think is really important when you set out with a client.
Okay, this interconnects with my next question to you, Manja, and I can see one of our fellows here, Elsa, asked how to best monetize the services that you offer. Do you do it by creating a product or a service? Okay, so a lot of people are saying, your family tree 3 steps back for that amount of money, or do you tailor it particularly for every client?
No, what I realized that we always diagnose, so that means that I, for example, get the request, they send me the request. The requests are different, are very different. Some people, they just want to come visit the village, maybe meet the relatives, and then I said, okay, let's diagnose. And first we even see if the client has the right data. A lot of times, the villages are wrong, or they just have, selo, how many selos you have in Slovenia and in Croatia. So you really have to first see if the clients have right data, and then I usually offer them or basic research, or we agree on a budget. We said, okay, because sometimes, you have different people, and people don't even, a lot of them, they don't even know what they will get. So a lot of times at the beginning, or even now, I said, look, if we don't find anything, you don't need to pay. But luckily, it never happened. So, we diagnose. So I do the package, or for example, people said, okay, I have a budget, I don't know, 300 euros. And then I said, okay, we can offer you still, because we see that the data are still available. It depends on the parish. So, for example, some parishes you will have data till the 17th century. Some data you will have only till the 18th, or I don't know, a lot lost. So it's very difficult. So I always diagnose.
Okay, and can you estimate your charge per hour if it's not the industry?
No, it's not the hour. Usually we charge like this: 250 euros for the basic research, 300 euros for guiding and per day guiding with maybe a basic pre-research. I also charge already 1,000 euros for the family tree and the research till 17th century. But in general, the prices are like this. If you want to have a family book, so the wider on the 4 side, it's like up to 1,000 euros, the research. This is it in general. But in general, the people are paying like between 400 to 500 euros per task.
Okay, Gary, I noticed you did a lot more marketing than Manja. As I understood, Manja is word of mouth, and she doesn't need more. But you did the whole charade, as we would say it. You did the branding, you did the website. Which of these marketing techniques would you say was the most successful or lucrative for your job?
Yeah, I think the thing I mentioned there is obviously social media. The advice is that when you set up a website, you should keep it updated. And I've got a blog as well on my website. If I'm guilty of one thing, it's not updating it as much as I should. I do some blogs occasionally on the website that attracts people in as well. I think the brand and the name of my business has been successful as in terms of attracting people, the colouring and whatever else. I haven't been probably proactive in terms of marketing because I haven't had to be quite honest. I've had enough people have come to my business that thing I mentioned as well about not overreaching and taking on too many clients. There's a couple of times where I probably have taken on too many clients, and you're sitting there with 5, 6 clients at the same time. You're trying to research, go to Edinburgh to do some research on some of the records that we have in Scotland. And this is perhaps...
So you can't remember whose grandma is whose. Okay.
That is an issue. You're sitting thinking, trying to remember which is which, and you can't get the two of them mixed up. So you have to be very careful. So I haven't had to go out necessarily, but the move that I'm making now, which I'm moving more towards ancestral tourism and more towards a kind of higher quality product, perhaps linking in with hotels, is going to mean that I'm probably going to have to do a bit more marketing in that area. But as I said, I think what it does is it, in amongst quite a competitive field in Scotland, where there's, probably, I would say probably over 100 professional genealogists in Scotland, all competing for the same work. You need to find a way that makes you stand out when somebody's searching in Google. And I think the kind of branding that I've done probably helps that a little bit. But as I said, it's not something I've had to do a great deal of campaigns to try and attract clients at the moment.
Yeah, I would like to mention that we have with us Wanda from United States of America. If I understood this little bird that told me properly, she also has an agency that offers back to the roots service. Wanda, if you would like to speak at any moment, please reach out. I think you asked some of these questions that I'm asking now. Moving on, Manja, you are a storyteller. This is pretty much obvious. How much time do you spend in researching history of an era that you're researching for a client?
Oh, a lot. Depends how many. So if we have, for example, on both sides, grandparents that are Slovenian or Croatian, then we dig into the both sides. Maybe it's only one, maybe two. So usually the best would be if we have like 3 months or 4 months. But good thing is that Slovenia and Croatia are small. The people moved out from certain areas. So now in municipality of Karlovac, for example, the villages as Lipnik, Ribnik, I have family trees of almost whole the village. So now the people, they already know me, and it goes quick. So now it's maybe I can now you are more focused on Split, and so in Split we have problem because most of your Croatians moved to Latin America, to Brazil and Argentina and so on. But the problem is that there it's very difficult to get data. I get every month 3 or 4 these requests from Latin America, from Brazil or Argentina. And if they don't have the real name data, it's almost impossible to research. Because if Americans are looking for the ancestors, we can dig into American documents. There is no problem. You can find everything in America. The census, the marriage certificates, the naturalization papers, obituaries, everything. But in Latin America, it's a problem. And so that's why, for example, I always wanted to work with Latin America, but because I speak also Spanish, but it's very difficult.
I can understand that. Gary, you said something about collaborating with tour operators, with hotels. How did you do that in practice? What was your first step, and how is it working out?
Yeah, it's I've had a relationship with a local tour operator in the Stirling area for quite a number of years, and it basically was they mentioned about Visit Scotland, the government organisation that promotes tourism Scotland. They had a conference, and I met somebody from the tour operators, and I basically spoke to them, approached them, and mentioned what I was doing, and they almost immediately, and most tour operators say this, to tour guides, I've said the same thing, that often they will take on a client, and the client will mention the fact that they've got Scottish ancestry, and I wish I'd known that before I arrived because I could have done some work. So there definitely has been identified as an opportunity. So the tour operator, what will do is they will usually get a client who will come in and say, I'm interested in finding a little bit of ancestry whilst I'm here, and then the tour operator will refer them to me, and I'll do the work for the client and share the report with the tour operator. The tour operator will then draw up an itinerary of a tour that the client will do, however long they are with the tour operator. The hotel is an interesting one. I haven't yet really established. I've had a really positive development in the last couple of weeks, where I had a conference call with a very, very prestigious hotel in the south of Scotland that are hoping to develop an ancestral event or opportunities for their clients. So I'm in discussions with them at the moment, and that's very similar, that if a client's coming over to their hotel and it's high-end kind of people who will be coming over in terms of the value of what they're going to be spending, and they will offer them through the hotel's facilities the chance to do some ancestral research, and then again they would contract with myself to do the work, the ancestral work and the tourism. And again, as I've mentioned, and Manja's mentioned, a lot of it's to do with time. If you can give us 2-3 months, we'll produce a quality product. If you give us a week, you're not going to get a great deal from us. So it's getting that message over to the hotels so that you're working with them. But I hope to develop. It's a question of getting out and speaking to the hotels, speaking to the managers. If you can get your foot in the door and chat to people about the opportunities. And the big thing that I sell with people is this thing about 40, 50 million people, 10 times the population of Scotland, have got some sort of Scottish ancestry. Most of them are in America, southern states of America, Carolinas, Canada. Huge number of people have got Scottish ancestry. So it's getting people in the hotels to understand the opportunities of giving something different for their clients when they're over.
Yeah, it could be a real quid pro quo relationship. Manja, you mentioned something about groups coming. Is it possible to transfer this to groups?
Yeah, I have, because for the last 20 years, or let's say now 15 years since I established my brand company, I'm working with a lot of with American guests, so the societies. For example, I don't know, from the Croatian Society with Kansas City, from Phoenix, with Slovenian Women's Union, with the Slovenian National Home. So I don't do much promotion in Slovenia. Okay, although the medias were very, very interested, so I had my 5 minutes of fame in Slovenia, which was okay. But I always needed to do the promotion in America, which I also did. So I was active in the Slovenian National Home. You have, for example, if you're interested in Croatia, you have so many very good organization in a Croatian organization. I was even invited to the Croatian picnic in Phoenix, because those are the Slovenian Croatian groups. And so I do go to America. I go to conventions. I give speeches. So that's the work of the last 20 years. So that's why everything. It's about the personal approach, and also whenever I went to some fair, like I don't know, fair here in that Slovenian Tourist Board was organizing. A lot of them they didn't even know, because it's such a particular. You need to go to the societies, to the national homes, to the to the concerts that the Croatians are organizing in America. So this is how to reach the clients. But what
it is possible, yes.
But what I also realized, that you really have to like this work, because there are a lot of family stories, and a lot of people hardly can take their own family stories, not then the others, because you will not get only the name and the last, you will hear it all. So for example, when I was still working, I was a lot on the field, the tours in Croatia and Slovenia, and my colleague friends, guys were telling me, "Oh, what are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I do this ancestry." "Oh, yeah, I know. I'm not into that." So, I maybe found or one or two that are really interesting, to take, because how our day looks like. When I get a family, I pick them, we pick them up, we go to the villages, and I don't give a general speech about, so you talk about the history, you do talk about the heritage, but it's not like you're just talking. It's a dialogue. It's not like this, like the guides we are used to, microphone and go. No, and then it's a translation. You have the relatives, you visit the cemeteries. Then, for example, I always bring a gift. We always take the shoes off. Those are those things that you have to think about. Of course, you need to call in advance. Don't just go knock on the door. Call in advance. Find the right family. Warn them. I always say to my clients, if you feel uncomfortable, just blink. Because you never know who you find. And also, there are so many touching stories. A lot of times, I don't even translate some things because we had prisoners, we had murders, we had everything already. So then it's also a question how diplomatic I have to be, still that everybody feels comfortable.
This is a great lead up to my next question. Gary, we heard all the good stories, okay, but why is this not a great job? Why do you have a bad day in this job? Okay, tell us some bad experiences so we know what to expect.
Yes, sometimes there's a frustration around about not finding the records that you're expecting to find. That can get quite monotonous sometimes if you're looking for records. We're very fortunate in Scotland. I don't know what it's like in Croatia, but in Scotland we have very, very good family history records, and they're very accessible. So I can hop on a train and go to Edinburgh, pay £15, and I can access the records for birth, marriage, and death records for people in Scotland right up until the last few years. But they're only online for the last 100 years for births. But sometimes the older records further back, they can be more difficult to find, and that should be a record there and you just can't find it, and it might be wrongly spelled, or there might be some reason why the record just doesn't exist. That can get frustrating. Client expectations, which I mentioned as well in my presentation, can sometimes be an issue. You can have clients who arrive with set ideas about what their family history is. You do some research and you discover it's completely different. And I've had a couple of clients where I've had to break gently to them. And the good thing and the bad thing is obviously online family trees on sites like Ancestry and others. A lot of people simply don't practice proper genealogy when they're doing the research there. They do a quick search, they find a name that they think is their ancestor, and they take all the information from somebody else's tree, and that unfortunately gets duplicated over the time. And so I've had occasions where I've had to say to a client, you think you're related to the chief of the clan MacLeod in Scotland? I had to tell you, but you're not. Your nearest ancestor I can find was a farmer from Aberdeenshire or whatever. So you have to be very gentle, lay them down gently and lay out the evidence. Most people will accept that, but I've had a couple of clients who find it difficult to accept and will argue the research that you've done yourself. That's usually the most difficult thing you've had, but it's few and far between. As I say, I think as much as anything, sometimes it's the frustration and the monotony of trying to search, looking for a client's record. It should be there, but sometimes just the records simply are there. If you're back to 1700, sometimes records weren't kept or were lost for whatever reason, and it can be frustrating from that point of view.
Manja, not to get too depressing now, but a similar question to you. You said that not a lot of people that are listening to this right now are going to be in this business in 10, 15 years. It's just hard, you said. Why is it so?
It's not like that it's hard. It's just a lot of time consuming. And of course, if you're focusing only into the money and being paid, it's not always like that. Especially because you invest a lot of time into researching or looking for, phoning, looking for the relatives. But to me, okay, now it's paid back. Every phone call that I did for free, now everything is paid back. But also because I was, I just loved it. I just loved it. But the thing is that what it's a problem. It's a problem. For example, what are my challenges now? Directly. For example, I have a client that want to go to Mutilic. You know, the Mutilic, the almost abandoned village. There are 16 people only. So if somebody knows anybody from the Mutilic, please contact me. You know, this is the village close to Udbina. And now how can I get the guide there? You know, so those are, for example, but this is not a problem because my clients will understand, you know, I will tell them and so on. Then, for example, what was also sometimes frustrating, but then I say, you know what, I'm my own boss, who cares, huh? For example, if I contact the relatives, you know, or Slovenia and Croatia, and they don't want to meet because they're not interested, huh? But there's always a story behind that. If we have time, I have another juicy story. We have. So how I got the rejection, huh? Several years ago, I had a Canadian client, and she was from Slapno, so close to Ozal. And I said, so how was the procedure? She contacted me for guiding. I said, okay, do you want only guiding, or do you want a whole story? Do you want me to prepare a family book? How much you know about the family? And she goes, yes, please prepare me whole story, the whole package. I said, okay, how much you know about the family? She goes, I only know my father was Harish Yuri, I think he was, huh? And I said, okay, so you confirm I will prepare everything. You just don't want to visit, but you will have, okay, yes. So we found out that this Yuri had 8 brothers and sisters. One was stayed in Slapno, and the last one was Ivan Harish, Ilya Gormovnik, the biggest diversant of the partisan army. He was one of the red hands of Tito, and he has even a monument. And of course, you know, there is a book about him, and the family didn't know. So I said, okay, I will focus first on the family in Slapno, and we'll call Dragica. So the granddaughter, I finally reached the granddaughter or grand Dragica, and she was like, where did you get those records? Who are you? Where did you find us? And I was like, in the church, you know, because in the church, it's everything, it's allowed, huh? And so she said, no, my grandfather didn't have any brothers and sisters. We only had Ivan Harish. I said, yes, Ivan Harish is also ours, huh? And then I said, look, dear Dragica, I called you to make your day beautiful. I didn't call you to make your day miserable. If you don't want, no problem. And then she goes, yeah, just call there in Zagreb, you know, the descendants of these partisan, huh? And then I said, and then of course I said, okay, first I was a bit sad, you know, because I thought I was bringing a good news. So I called to Zagreb, and the family there was, oh my God, thanks God. You know, we heard about this family. We had pictures of them because those 2 brothers were very connected. And the story of the book, if somebody has ever heard about, so the book that Ivan Harish wrote starts how he was expelled from Canada because he was spreading social ideas. So he was expelled, you know, and that's why the brother didn't want to talk about him, and that's why the Canadian family didn't want to talk. So what happened then at the end? So the family were sitting, 4 cousins came, and the family from Canada brought the letter. And in this letter, it was written, oh my God, I hope nobody is from this area there, and they're now listening. So in this letter, it was written, dear my brother Juraj, you know, this, so the brother from Croatia wrote to brother to Canada. Dear my brother Jura, I have to tell you, I'm so angry. I'm so angry about our brother Franjo. So this one from the angry Dragica. I'm so angry about our brother Franjo because at the court, he said we are all dead, and that I was eaten by the wild animals in the desert. Tito called me and checked if this is true, because, you know, he wanted the land or what. And then this even said, you know, I went to Slapno, I beat him up, but I gave him the land. He should have the land. So you know, but I didn't tell to my clients that the family in Slapum didn't want to see them. But once I read this letter, everything made sense. You know, the anger, the fear was transferred from the generation to generation. No wonder, you know, she didn't like the family. And then, of course, I told them the story, and we all laughed. And still now I'm telling to everybody. So thank you.
It's a great story. Gary, I can see your correspondence with Diana over here about genealogy programs. Okay, are they a good tool? Do you use them? Are there some you would warn us about that are not to be used? And can they actually help? Can they beat this, which Manja is speaking about, you know, going directly to the village, talking to the lady in front of the store?
Yeah, as I mentioned in the chat there, I use one program called Family Historian 7 to capture a client's family tree, and my own family tree is on there as well. It's a matter of personal choice. There are plenty others that are available: Roots Magic, Family Tree Maker. They're all very similar. It's a question of what is your preference, how you like to work. Family Historian 7 is my preference for capturing that information. But on top of that, I subscribe to Ancestry, to My Heritage, and also to Find My Past. It's a question of where is the best records that you're looking for. Find My Past has a lot of UK, Scotland, Ireland records, so it suits me for my research to subscribe to Find My Past, and I spend a lot of time there. Family Search, which has been mentioned, which is free. Again, it can be useful. They're all very, very useful. The only thing I would say is when you get hints from Ancestry or hints from Family Search or any of the other sites, you need to do your own work first. You don't just accept a hint as being that's definitely my ancestor or that's who I'm looking for, because it might not be true. You need to do the work yourself and understand how these computer systems work. So Ancestry will give you a hint, but that's based on it searching different trees and different records. Some of those trees might not be accurate. So don't just accept at face value when you get a hint, but they're all very, very useful. You know, you have to go away and do the digging, the checking of the records themselves. And on Ancestry, there's a lot of records there that you can use when you're doing your research. But when you get hints from family trees, check them yourself to make sure that it's accurate and it's not false information that you've obtained.
Okay, and before the final question, we have one more question from the audience. Manja, when you work with Argentinians or other people from South America, how do you manage to monetize those researches?
Honestly, whenever I send them the price, they don't even pay. So it's very difficult to start with Latin America. Really, and then there was last year or 2 years ago was a big problem with payments because they needed to pay for 80% more for all the external money wire. So honestly, with Latin America, I didn't have any realization.
So that's something that definitely would require work, especially for people from around here. And let's end on a positive note. Gary, why do you love your job?
It's the freedom I get to be able to determine how much work I'll take on, which is really useful. And I'm enjoying, because I have an interest in Scottish history, I learn so much about, you know, every client that comes to me, you know, they've learned a lot about parts of Scotland. That my family itself is from Aberdeenshire and from round about Stirlingshire, but clients will come to me from, you know, the Highlands, from Fife, from all over different parts of Scotland. So I learn a lot about parts of Scotland that previously I didn't know a great deal about. And being able to get feedback from clients who have been able to come across and walk in the footsteps of their ancestors, the feedback you get from them is wonderful when you hear that you're able to keep the memory of those ancestors alive for people has been very, very good as well.
And Manja, similar question, but as if I understood it correctly from the both of you, you can live from this. This can be a full-time job.
Yeah, depends on the groups. In general, I have like, I would say like 70% income would be from the ancestry tours or individuals or family or bigger groups. And then the other would be other incoming. But yes, every year now I'm at the point that I cannot take much more because it's so much work. Thanks God I'm outsourcing and I have good colleagues. So this is a problem. But otherwise, yes, I love my job. I love these reunions. I love these meetings. I love this crying. I said, I never saw, they are selling this 5-star experience, and then I said, I don't know. I never saw a client crying in the 5-star hotel, or in from happiness. I never saw in a client crying in the glamping 5-star. You are crying, when something is personal, when some illumination comes. So this is really what it's happening on those tours.
Thank you so much for you both. You really got us interested in this story, and actually I think we answered most of the questions that people asked before the webinar and now during the webinar. And I would like to turn our attention to our host, Mr. Nata, who has the closing remarks.
Hi, everyone again. Manja and Gary, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation and for taking time to share your experiences so openly with us. Before I say a few final words, if there is anyone in the audience that still has some questions left unanswered, please don't hesitate. This is the moment to log in and turn on your microphone and just simply ask. Wanda is writing. Okay, Yelena Holenko says, pleasure working.
Yes, I love you too, Helena. Yelena, I also like you a lot.
If you allow me just 1 second, I just want to say what an amazing moment you have created. I am so much in gratitude for Dalmatian storytelling. I know when you first reached out to me, I was excited. And I'm also want to thank Adi Kocic for doing such a great job of mastering the questions you posed. Amazing. Bravo, bravo, bravo. I got into this the same way that Manja did. It's an accident. You fall into places. You take a route, you never know where it's going to take you. We don't normally, we are not, people come to us. We're a luxury travel company. We are the first in Croatia. We're celebrating our 30th year. We just did. And they come to us because they want to travel to Croatia. Through the course of our storytelling, travel is storytelling. That's what travel is all about. But through the course of learning who the client is, the conversations we have, we ask some very pointed questions. Do you have any roots there? I don't know, Manja, very similar, Manja, very similar to what you experienced. And then we develop, and we had very good fortune of having some amazing people come to us that had wonderful stories, wonderful experiences. I'm just going to tell you about one, Manja, because it's about, we just last year had a gentleman, 2 generations removed, discovers he's got roots. His name is not even Croatian anymore because of the marriages and all. And we brought him back. And with me, I also have Mirela Benic. She's our concierge. She is Taste for Croatian Journeys, part of the team. And she's the one that makes so many things happen to us. She's in Rijeka, and she's our most important link while we're there. However, he tells me he went to the village. He heard about the stories from the villagers, and he took his shoes off, and it was his pleasure to put his feet in the little stream where his great-grandmother used to wash her clothes. I get goosebumps when I think about this. So thank you for the opportunity. Let's do more of this. And Gary, you're a trove of information. We love you, loved everything you're doing, and thank you for teaching us so much. And Manja, thank you. Thank you, all of you. Thank you.
Wanda, thank you for sharing this experience. We have 2 people raising their hands, online hands. Miss Marina, would you like to start?
Yeah. Congratulations on the great presentations, Gary. I'm a huge fan of Stedling. I was there for a few months when I was younger. William Wallace was my favorite Scottish man, so I love Edinburgh and I love Stirling. And first of all, I love all Croatian diaspora. I have just returned from Brazil, from where we had the 8th annual meeting of Croatian South American diaspora, and Croatian National Tourist Board has been actively supporting the diaspora events all around the world, especially the South American events and the North American events. We closely cooperate with the ACAF, Croatian American professionals, as well as our South American diaspora. And I must say that all the dimension of tourism that the diaspora gives to it, it's different because it's very, very emotional. I have met 4th, 5th, 6th generation of Croatian Brazilians. Some of them don't even speak Croatian, but they sing. There was 2 little kids on the grand opening of the event. One was 3 and the other was 4, and they were speaking Croatian. Their parents are not even fully of Croatian origin. So yeah, it's one of the niche of the tourism that I believe is going to have a lot of success in the future, especially of this emotional dimension of tourism. I mean, tourism is emotion, but the emotional dimension of tourism dealing with diaspora has a highest level of emotion. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina. Marina is from National Croatian Tourist Board, correct? Just for those who didn't realize.
True. I'm the advisor for international cooperation, and we do, as I said, a lot of projects since 2018 with Croatian diaspora.
And hopefully all of our licensed tour guides from the Dalmatia Storytelling and Back to the Roots project will cooperate with you in the future. So we will build this network of roots tourism not only in Dalmatia, but also for the whole Croatia. Thank you, Marina, for joining, and thank you for your comment. And the next is Kristina Nojić-Prka. You raised your hand. Would you like to join in?
Hello, how are you all?
Hello, welcome.
I hope you can see me now. So this was really, really interesting. So thank you so much. This was really a great experience. For Manja, you asked for Udbina. So now I'm the vice president of Croatian Tourist Guides Association that gathers 20 associations all around Croatia. So it is really easy to find you the colleagues that are in Lika or in Udbina or wherever you need. So if you need some of the informations. So Renata, once again, I have to really thank you for the beautiful preparation of all projects. So only that in short. So of course, if you need any information, so we have our colleagues, our guides all around Croatia. And also in Bosnia and Herzegovina, so it's not a problem. We are also very well connected. Okay, so as you know, a lot of Croatians have also the origins from over there as well.
Absolutely wonderful, Kristina. Thank you so much. Kristina is also my very good friend, but also a member of these 19 licensed tour guides that will be joining us in this grand tour of creating this professionals in genealogy tourism in Croatia. Thank you, Kristina, for being first and foremost again in this tourism business. Thank you. And we have another hand, and this is Marko Rimac. Marko, are you here with us? You need to turn on your microphone.
Just a second. Yeah, I was pressing on the picture rather on the not on the board. So hello everybody. I would also like to thank everybody, to the organizers and to the presenters for all the wonderful experiences and everything. For the last 25 years or so, I've been doing some thorough genealogical research, mostly in southern Croatia. And being one of the members of the Croatian Genealogical Society, I have also some nice experiences that that are just the same as the ones that Manja said. I have seen so much people crying, grown-ups, and I must say that of all the people that I had experiences working the genealogy on, the best experience is always the immigrants, the people that are not from Croatia. So, for instance, in Croatia, if you tell somebody, well, I have researched your family tree and, I found you 10 generations 300 years ago, he will say, who cares? Go 1,000 years more, But if you have a fellow American who is interested in genealogy, you find him a great grandfather and he cries, in front of me, just, 3 generations. So it's a different experience. And I would say that many experiences with dealing with genealogy have been troublesome experiences. Not all experiences have been nice, but almost all experiences with the foreigners were excellent. So I think that this project has a future, and I think that we should head on. We had a lot of questions, when this workshop started being organized. One of those was, what level of research is actually necessary before we start. And you have actually answered all the questions, So we have gotten a good experience about what is to be expected from this. Especially, I thank Gary for all the business advice that he gave us. It will be of good use to everybody, I think. And of course, thanks to Manja, because without the anecdotes, nobody can, get into touch with everything immediately. And of course, networking is something that is the first step. So nobody, or at least almost nobody, can do this on his own. So we need to have a network of researchers and a network of guides, and that's the only way we can get this project going. So thanks for the experiences. I had a lot of questions, but most of them were answered during this. First thing was, how to balance between, a general tour, just go to the roots, for everybody, and the other one, is it individualized? Is it personalized? Is it, does it require research before you do the tour? And as much as I have seen, at least 90% of the requests are, first research, then tour. So that's an important question that we needed to solve. And thank you again.
Marco, thank you again.
Yeah.
Marco.
And if you have any question or any need, you can also contact the Croatian Genealogical Society in Zagreb. And of course, we will do our best to contact you with somebody. Yeah.
Yes, Professor Rimac is the president of the Genealogy Society, Pavlaoriter Vitezovic, on the Croatian national level. And also, we have an honor to have him in April as a lecturer to our license guides, future experts in genealogy tourism. I had Wanda's hands up. Wanda, you still have a comment?
I do. Besides being grateful and learn, I just want to entice everyone that is participating here. If you have interest in working with us, if you're someone that you feel you can be one of our vehicles for some of our travelers and clients, please reach out to us, send us your CV, and let us, and of course, if you're a licensed guide, we want to see your license, but let us know how we can work together. A special hello to Miss Benzong. which I met in 2011 at Vestibule Palace in Split. I see that she's here with us. But if anyone wants, there she goes. She just sent a little heart. So please, if anybody, I don't know whether you have a list of everyone that participated, if you can share or not, we would love to connect and start working with people that have an interest in this, and they can come through our visit Croatia.com, Taste for Croatian Journeys. And I just want to announce now that we thank you very much, Gary, for the inspiration. We just got the website, Heart of Scotland Ancestry. Thank you.
Thank you, Wanda.
It's just now we created it. Thank you. Thank you very much. I love you all because brilliance I adore, and you have that. Thank you.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and on behalf of everyone that is today here. I will, for sure, for Split Dalmatia County, I'll be more than glad to send you the info. All of our tour guides that have a fantastic tours, not only that they will be ready for the roots tourism, but also many authentic tours that they're doing already through Project Dalmatia Storytelling Destination. So to wrap it up, let me check, is there any other questions? No, there are not. Okay, well then, Manja and Gary, once again, thank you for this lovely and wonderful presentation. This hands-on knowledge you have is something that can't be found in books. I believe your insights will open a new perspectives for all of our participants in the webinar and for those who will watch the recording later. It's been my great honor. I have to say to everyone that Manja and Gary did this voluntarily. They gave their own personal time to share with a full heart and open-hearted all the insights from their work. So I invite everyone who have additional questions. I left you a little contact of Manja and Gary in a chat. I will also be free to send alongside with the video link their contact information. In case you have any direct questions, feel free to contact them. And let's all network together because I think it's always something good comes out of it, and and I think we can make this story grow even bigger and better. So once again, thank you, Scotland. Thank you, Slovenia. And I hope you will visit us soon so our guides can show you our beautiful Dalmatia. You all have a lovely day, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Hari, thank you also.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome. See you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Georgina. Bye. Thank you.
Povratak.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you. And Manja, you're spectacular. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love to do something with you, Manja.
Yes, please contact me.
Well, okay. Thank you.
I love
Bye-bye.
this because we Slovenians are so cold, you know. But working this, you know, you have to be warm, and I can feel this in Wanda's voice. This, I love you, I love you.
Yes.
I'm like this on the tours, but at home we have to be quiet, you know, in Slovenian home.
But listen, our website